Welcome to Southwest Florida Real Estate Update, hosted by area realtor Jim York and York Real Estate Group of Downing Fry Realty. Our show will bring you the most up-to-date information about the local real estate market, featuring leading experts in the real estate field.
Hi, welcome to the Southwest Florida Real Estate Update. I'm Morgan York with the York Real Estate Group, and today we're joined by our host Jim York and his guest Celia Deifik, attorney with the law group Ross, Lanier, and Deifik.
Thank you, Morgan, for the introduction. Well, welcome back to the show.
Thank you for having me.
So before we get into the topics today, just tell us a little bit about yourself and your practice.
Sure. I'm a partner with Ross, Lanier, and Deifik, a law firm downtown. We've been in existence for over 20 years. I'm board certified in real property law by the Florida Bar, and what I don't do transactions. I litigate real estate issues. I litigate business issues.
That's good. Well, let's talk about, we got a couple subjects today. We're going to talk about easements, which can be a big problem for people when they buy a condo or buy a property. There could be an easement part of the property. So maybe you can just talk to us a little bit about what are they looking for, and they're signing a piece of paper that maybe they don't even realize there's an easement in it, right?
That's very true. That's very true. There's really three ways that easements arise, and the first is, as you mentioned, it's in the covenants of the master association, the homeowners association, or the condominium association. A lot of times people don't realize that the covenants contain easements. They also don't, and by taking the deed, they are essentially agreeing to the covenants. It's really a contract between the landowner and the rest of the community. So two things people fail to realize. They fail to be aware of the easements that are within their neighborhood, and they fail to be aware that there may be other easements in the larger community. The second way that easements arise is by implication. And for instance, that might be what we call a way of necessity. If you have a big parcel of land, you cut it in half and you sell me the back part, that's great, but I can't get to the road. So the law will imply a road across your remaining property so I can get to the street. And ways of necessity are a whole big area in the law.
But let me stop you there, okay?
Sure.
Before we get into, we have a bunch of questions I have for you, but you know, a person's buying a property from a real estate agent like ourselves. We don't always know what easements there are or not. So typically, what would be the step for the buyer to ask the attorney or closing agents, you know, before they sign the paperwork or during they sign the paperwork? What questions can our viewers pick up from this show that they should be asking?
Well, absolutely, they should get a survey, a current survey. They should have an attorney review all of the covenants, whether it's the declaration of condominium, declaration of, you know, the master homeowner association, so that they know what might be coming down the road. The other thing that will do for them is there's a third way that easements arise, and that's by what we call prescription, which is usually against the owner's will, where someone has been using the property, whether for access or drainage, whatever, for 20 years. And if you don't have a good survey, talk to the people in the neighborhood, and really have a review of the documents done by a qualified person, you may not know about that.
There's different kinds of easements. So maybe you could explain, like, you know, there could be a drainage easement behind a home that you can't build on.
Well, those are setbacks, and often they're in the zoning law, as well as being a quasi-easement in the homeowner documents. There's utility easements, for instance, for poles. There's drainage easements for the county as well as for individuals. There's even easements for air and light, where, for instance, I might make an agreement with you, a written agreement with you, that you're not going to build anything on your lot that's higher than my building,
right,
because you're going to obstruct my view of the lake or the Gulf or something like that. So, yes.
Can that be written into a property? Let's say somebody's buying a place in Pine Ridge, where
Right.
they have large lots, an acre or plus acre. Can that be written, an easement be written into the property while they own it, that somebody next door wouldn't build? Or
Obviously, that would have to be done by agreement with the other owner.
Okay.
Yes, those things can be done. They need to be recorded. Now, when we talk about different types of easements, 2 points to make. One, I want to go back to people not understanding that there are easements
Right.
for whatever. And I have a little cartoon here that shows someone saying, at the time we bought, I didn't know what an easement was. It shows train tracks going through the middle of the house. And your viewers will be able to see that and maybe get a laugh. The other thing to realize is what you and I are talking about, utility easements, access easements, very often those are written express easements. But there's different types of easements. For instance, there might be easements that you have with the property that's right next door to you. That's what we call an appurtenant easement. That's going to run with the land, which is a fancy way of saying it never goes away. On the other hand, if I live on the lake, and I like you, Jim, you live across the street from me, and you want to be able to go down to the lake and use it. I say, sure, fine, go down to the lake anytime you want. Well, you're not in a neighboring property, so that's a personal easement I'm giving just to you, and it might go away at a later point in time. Safest way is for us to put that in writing,
Right.
that it's definitely going to go away. Yes, there's a lot of different types of easements.
And the biggest one that we should be watching for?
Well, it really depends on the property that you have. Again, surveys matter. I think a lot of people put a lot of trust in the documents that they receive and in the representations that they receive. And often people mean to tell everything in good faith, but it's not understood, particularly by people who are moving here from another area. In neighborhoods, I think one of the things that happens, and it happens more frequently with border properties, boundary areas, strips of property, is where easements can arise by prescription. In other words, somebody's using it for 20 years, it's going to become etched in stone. So
a length of time can establish an easement too.
Yes. There are ways of extinguishing easements, but that usually needs a court action if you can't get the parties to agree.
Okay, we're going to take a little short
Sure.
break, and we'll be right back in 1 minute. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thinking of buying or selling a home in Naples, Marco, Bonita, or Estero, Florida? Think of the most experienced York real estate group associated with the #1 brokerage in Naples, Downing Fry Realty, which produced $1.9 billion in sales in 2014, controlling 43% of all transactions in Naples. Jim, Michael, and Morgan York make up the York Real Estate Group of Downing Fry Realty. With over $250 million in sales transactions, they can offer you the expertise and trust you want and need in a realtor. Call them today at 239-273-6727 or visit their website, www.naplesyorkrealestate.com.
Welcome back. Okay, let's talk about an outrageous easement.
Well, I had a scenario some years ago where I was representing a condominium association. Condominium had been fully sold out by the developers and turned over to the unit owners. It was a unit owner controlled association. Well, they started to have issues with their bathrooms and their kitchens. Come to find out, the sewer pumping facility that was immediately adjacent to the condominium was not functioning properly, and the septic field had not been pumped out. When they hired people to try and take care of this, they found that it was enclosed and gated and locked. And when they found out that the developer owned it, they asked for access, and she refused access without payment. We got an emergency hearing for public health purposes and got access to this property. And eventually, I believe they either obtained an implied easement or purchased it for a much lower amount than she wanted, because it could and should have been part of the condominium. So the court can imply an easement where an adjacent parcel of property is absolutely necessary to the enjoyment of the other parcel.
That's interesting. Who maintains an easement?
Easements are the responsibility of the people that are using it. So for instance, if there is a footpath across your property to get to the beach, it's not your responsibility to keep it mowed and keep branches trimmed back. It's the responsibility of the people that wish to use it. And if they fail to maintain it or they overburden it, for instance, let's say you've got a 5-foot wide footpath to the beach, and for years, you know, a few people a day are walking down it, and then all of a sudden you find that it's been widened and paved and people are driving across it. Wait, that's not what this was for. And you can go to court and have the easement terminated. Another way an easement can end is if it's abandoned, if it's not used for an extended period of time. You can have the court declare it to be terminated.
If you have an easement and there's trees on it and the trees are overhanging in your property, who maintains that?
Well, you're responsible for the portion. It's still all your property.
Right.
You're responsible for all of it. You're not responsible, however, to trim them so as to make it convenient for the people who want to use it. So you'd have to trim your side, for instance,
Right.
or not the other, or you trim all of it and maybe charge a small fee to whoever was using the access.
Okay. Well, I think we've learned a lot today about easements, and I appreciate you coming on
Sure.
the show, and I hope you come back soon.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Thank you.